What's up, guys? It is 6:20 in the morning on Thursday morning, and I'm just packing up from this hotel in Birmingham where I've got to travel, I think it's around about 120 miles over to the edge of Wales to Celtic Manor, you know, where they used to do the Ryder Cup, the golf, for those golfers out there. I'm travelling between the two because last night I was doing an event here, speaking after dinner for a company, and I'm now about to head over there to do a daytime conference for somebody else, all talking about Formula One, of course. And one of the questions that came up last night, somebody asked me, and a few of you have asked me this in the comment sections of videos as well, is the Chinese Grand Prix going to go ahead? And if it doesn't go ahead, if it gets cancelled, probably like we expect it to, what's the impact of that? Okay, made it to Wales. Still no message. I'm expecting a message any moment now, really, on my phone to announce the cancellation of the Chinese Grand Prix. Of course, there'll be loads of groups desperately trying to make sure that doesn't happen. The promoters, for one, will have already spent an absolute fortune. So the consequences of cancellation to them are significant. Financially, they're significant. It also might have an impact on the relationship that they might have with people like Formula One and with the FIA. Because I'm sure they're trying to do everything to convince the FIA that it's absolutely safe. But a significant development yesterday was that the Shanghai Sports Federation, based in Shanghai, actually came out and recommended the cancellation of all sporting events in the area. It's very hard to see now, with that information, how anybody can go against that. Now, there has been talk of swapping the Chinese Grand Prix with the Russian Grand Prix much later in the year, and all of the talk coming out of that conversation is that the Russian GP organisers simply don't want to do it. And of course they don't want to do it. That's totally understandable. They've already put a huge amount of effort, resource, energy into organising that race for a particular date. Tickets have been sold, events have been booked around it. The infrastructure that goes into a Grand Prix, you can imagine, is enormous. So of course they don't want to be forced into making a change to bring that months forward, which would now only give them a few weeks before the race is supposed to be held. That's a non-starter, in my opinion. So that means that if we do cancel the Chinese Grand Prix as expected, we've got an enormous gap, and that for me is a really interesting impact that this will have, because that means that the race in Vietnam on April the 5th, leaving that Grand Prix, there would be almost a month, just shy, 2 days shy of an entire month before we get to the next race, which is the Netherlands on May the 3rd. Now, they are two brand new Grand Prix, and to have a month gap in between them is like a dream come true to a Formula One team. The Dutch Grand Prix this year is the first European race. Now, traditionally, we always see the big upgrades coming. It's normally Barcelona, isn't it? Well, to have a month, I mean, it won't quite be a month, but have an extended gap back in the factory where we can get all the kit home, the teams home, the cars home, bringing those updates to the car, and then have some time, which is a real luxury, before taking them on a truck to the European Grand Prix in Holland for May the 3rd. That's a big impact. It gives the teams much more development time, much more production time. They can push on their development schedule, which otherwise they would have had to have a cut-off date probably 2 weeks before that to make sure they can achieve what they need to achieve for the Chinese Grand Prix. Now, all of that gap can be taken up in development. So I've just read that there have been a couple of proposals put forward to the teams as a solution for when China is officially cancelled. One of those was to slot the race, so postpone the race and slot it into the summer break, which would shorten the summer break. The other was to slot it into the gap between Brazil and Abu Dhabi, making that a triple header. Unsurprisingly, the teams have said absolutely not. And of course they're going to do that, because there are already people that have made plans, booked holidays. For example, the staff in each of those teams will have booked holiday for that summer break. You can't suddenly go, actually, can you cancel your holiday because we've postponed the Chinese Grand Prix? That's just not going to work. And to create a triple header right at the end of the season is the last thing that Formula One teams want. So from a team's perspective, it's going to be almost impossible, I think, to slot the Chinese Grand Prix anywhere else into the 2020 calendar. Right, heading home now in the Tesla. I've got about 120 miles to do, which should be pretty sweet because I've had it on charge whilst I've been talking this morning, so we're all good to go. We've got plenty of energy in the battery. So I'll get home and we'll pick up on another subject when I get there. So I got back from Wales last night, really enjoying the Tesla, by the way, the Model 3. I've just got it on loan from Tesla at the moment for this week, and I've got a couple of videos I think they'll be quite cool coming up with that at some point over the next couple of weeks. Anyway, I got back and still no official word on the Chinese Grand Prix. I'm keeping an eye on that, and obviously I'll let you know anything if it happens. But what I did get back to was, of course, the news that Haas had broken cover with their new car. At first I thought, and they announced it as a livery reveal, because of course their livery has changed dramatically from the one that was inspired by that fateful sponsorship deal with the energy drink brand that may or may not exist. So I'd love to know what you think of the livery. I will be doing, of course, a full video on each of the cars as they are unveiled, and what I noticed once I'd looked into it a bit more was that actually that is the new Haas, or it's certainly a different car to the one they finished racing with last year. There are some chassis differences, a few things that are similar, I guess, to last year's Ferrari. But anyway, I'm going to go through that in a bit more depth later on in a separate video, so keep an eye out on the channel for that one. And I also promised you an update, didn't I, the other day on the Seedstream app. This is the app that a friend of mine, Ollie, has designed, created himself. He came to me last year and said, look, I've come up with this idea for an app, and he talked me through the app, and I thought, you know what, that's a great idea. It ticks a lot of the boxes. It's kind of a, you know, the reason he came to me was that he wanted to start this app off by centering it around Formula 1. And eventually it'll probably spread out to all sports and maybe even other areas too. But the idea is that it puts all of the content that you or we love to consume in one place without having to go through a whole host of different paywalls, different subscription services. And it puts it all there in a very easy, nice to view, simple way. And I really like that idea, so I agreed to help him with it and help him try and push things in the right direction. Over the last year or so, or maybe even less than a year, we've been sort of helping each other look at different ways of doing things, looking at some of the options that might be available. We rolled out, or he, I mean, this is not me, this is him. He rolled out a very much a kind of beta version last year. I talked about it in a video, and loads of you signed up to that app and have been using it. I've been using it every single day, and I've actually grown. It's grown to be, I think, my favourite app on my phone. It's the app that I use first thing every morning. It's probably the app that I check last thing before I go to bed every night, because it has all of the F1 news and content that I need. And look, I'm a supposed Formula 1 expert. I'm part of the Formula 1 media circus, if you like, to some extent, and yet I still find this app really, really useful. So I thought what I'd do is I'd give you an update on where it's at now, because the app has just gone through a fairly major update in itself. And what I'll do when I get home is I will show you some screenshots. Maybe I'll screen record my phone using the app and show you exactly what it's done, because there are a few changes on it, and I think it's well worth, if you haven't already, downloading the app, having a look at it, and join the party. So this is the Formula 1 Seed, and this is where you get all of your Formula 1 information. It's all very nicely visually presented. Each of the icons, of course, shows you which team it most relates to. There's some for me, because I've been posting in there regularly too. There's a news roundup almost every day, which is really, really useful, because it comprises all of the most useful news, puts the headlines in there, puts a couple of paragraphs to summarise that news article, and then if you want to go and read the article in full, there's a visit button that you can click in the top corner that'll take you to the original source of the article to read it fully if you want to. But if you don't, if you just want to scan all of the day's news from all of the major Formula 1 content providers, it's all there. The app does all of that searching for you. No one's got time to go searching. I haven't got time to go searching through all of the different big news Formula 1 websites. And we've just had another major news, credible Formula 1 news website launch just this week. That's another place that you've got to go and look for content if you want to be right across everything. But you can like the article by hitting the little heart. You can also, if you want to, comment on the post, which lots of you have been doing, commenting on whether you like that livery, what are your views on it, what are your reactions to it, and it generates a conversation underneath each of those articles as well. And speaking of conversations, one of the things that's just changed with this latest update, one of the reasons I really wanted to talk to you about it, was that up in the top right corner here, there's a live chat button. Now that is literally a rolling chat that happens then and there. So if you post a chat in it right now, it'll pop up on everyone's phone to let you know there's a chat happening. We can all have a conversation. And it's one of the things that I thought would be really useful maybe during a Grand Prix. If we're all watching a Grand Prix together, we can have a live conversation on there. We could maybe even do that over the course of the car unveilings next week. I'll be around for some of them, so we can have a live conversation as we get live reactions from you guys and from me, and we'll start a conversation on this. So that's really, really useful. There's loads of uses over the course of a season where I can see that happening. And the other thing that I am definitely going to be doing, as well as posting regularly on here, I'm already doing that right now. I'm posting videos, I'm posting text updates as well. But one of the things I really want to do is next week, over the car launch week, I'm going to be doing a series of really short form analysis of each of the cars. Now I always do a longer form YouTube video as well. Many of you obviously know that. That will pop up in this app as well, my YouTube videos. But also I'm going to do this short form, maybe like a minute or 2 minute analysis of every car as it's unveiled over the course of the week. Just a bite-sized chunk of what the concept of that car is, what the thinking might be behind it. So I hope you'll find that really interesting and useful as well. And of course, I'd love to get your reaction on it too. So loads of really interesting stuff. And the biggest thing is that this is very much an app in development right now. This is one of the things that Ollie's really keen to point out is it's not the finished article. It's in a really good place and it's moved on so much from when we first started. But the really exciting thing is that he's got so many more ideas for this to come that just need a bit of funding that he's working towards. And when it does come to fruition, when this thing builds into the eventual finished app, honestly, I think it's going to be brilliant. I already love it. I think you'll love it too. So look, go away, download it, and I will see you there. Right, that's it folks. Big week next week. I love car launch week. It's one of my favourite times of the year where we finally get to see these things for the very first time. There'll be videos coming, of course, as and when I can do them on every single one of the cars as they're launched. I hope that you guys enjoy the weekend. I'll see you next week, both here on YouTube and hopefully on the Seedstream app too. Have a great one. F1 is almost back.